And good Sunday morning to you. Welcome into Capitol View. I'm Jay Burr. The state is in week 3 of this state of emergency fighting COVID-19. Everything in the state has been touched, and now banker, cattleman, and state senator Bruce Maloch joins us via the FaceTime to talk about the impact from down there in District 12. And Bruce, we certainly appreciate the time here. Let's start from a banking standpoint. What are some of the issues that we've seen COVID-19 and just basically shutting a lot of the state down have an effect in that industry?
Well, thanks, Jay. It's good to be with you this morning. As soon as the coronavirus started ramping up in Arkansas, we immediately, even before some of the federal relief packages came about, started reaching out to some of our customers, particularly those that might be in the hospitality industry, restaurants, hotels, that we knew their business would be off, and offered ways to work with them, whether it was a delay of some payments or an interest only for a while. And so we started that. And then, of course, more recently, and particularly this week, and really on Friday, things really ramped up with the CARES Act that had the Paycheck Protection Program in it, where businesses could apply for that. And there was really a lot of confusion about it. We were still working on it as I left the bank on Friday, but we're working with our customers, trying to help them, and that will help with some of their payroll expenses. And there's going to be a lot more going forward. We don't know how long this will last.
And I guess just what have you guys seen just from your standpoint in banking? Because if it's anything like the way unemployment's been, I mean, it's just seen like we've seen a mad dash on unemployment. Has it kind of been the same way, especially in that small business, middle-sized business, in terms of the loans and the bridge loans, things like that?
It really has, and again, the reason that people are so interested in this Paycheck Protection Program is because it's a forgivable loan if they keep those employees employed for the next 8 weeks. And I think there's a lot of concern that people would jump out there, maybe the big banks, some of the bigger employers, even though it's limited to 500, and get all of that money before we could get the applications in. We got revised applications as late as 10:30 Thursday night. We continued to get advisements throughout the day on Friday, and so it really was confusing for banks and their customers. And hopefully by the first of the week, we'll be ramped up and really being able to take care of some customers. But it's been a challenge.
Now, I know you kind of also are in the cattle industry as well, and it's maybe not something that people necessarily think about when they think of the coronavirus. But just from that standpoint, what have you seen? How has that industry been affected?
Well, the cattle market, particularly for the cow-calf person and the feeders, has really suffered, and it's been down for quite some time. The packer margins are very good, but the cow-calf person has really struggled. The thing about agriculture is it doesn't stop. We're more careful still with where we go, but we're essential businesses, and our suppliers, the feed stores, and fertilizer distributors and chemical dealers, that's all essential to our business. And as soon as things dry out a little bit over in East Arkansas, they've got to get those crops in the ground. So agriculture doesn't stop, but we're still conscious that the virus is out there and with how we interact with other people.
And I guess moving forward here, the state's fiscal session coming up, we saw in the special session, folks were spread out. I know you guys on the Senate side of things were spread out, even shot some guys up to the second floor there, and we're seeing some video here of what the House did at the Jack Stevens Center. I guess for this one, the one thing that would come to mind for a lot of people is, why not just push this thing back?
Well, Jay, that was actually my first reaction of something that we might do. And then I thought we might go in on Wednesday, April the 8th, which we have to statutorily do. I thought we might recess, come back in a couple of weeks. But the advice that we're getting now from our health department is that we're still on the ramp-up stage of this virus. And so things could be worse in 2 or 3 weeks. So their advice was really to get in, get the session done as quickly as we can, and get back home. And of course, we will continue to use the social distancing, spreading people out, and I think we'll even use more of our proxy voting that we've authorized by special rule just during this time. I think we'll have a lot more of that even in the fiscal session than we did in the special session last week.
Now I guess for folks who may not understand that, kind of explain that process, the proxy voting.
Well, and it's something that's unusual because in the past, our regular rules did allow for what we called a paired vote. If someone couldn't be there, if they were for a bill, they could find someone who was against the bill and sign what's called a paired vote. But in the case of proxies, we can go ahead and designate how we want to vote on the different bills, and they would automatically be recorded in accordance with our direction. One of the things that we're still working on is in the committee process and joint budget. A lot of times there may be discussion. Someone may offer an amendment that's not expected, and so you might not know how you want to vote if you're not there. Of course, we're going to all be watching probably live streaming if we're not in attendance in person. And so we're still looking at adapting some rules to allow for texting someone or calling in a vote. We've just got to be flexible during this situation that's unlike any that we've ever had before.
And I know we were talking earlier last week about sort of what to expect from this, but for our viewers, it seems like this is going to be a power session, and I know a lot of people may be concerned with, we're not going to have all the numbers available at the time, but I know the RSA kind of takes care of a lot of that sort of on its own.
It really does. You know, Arkansas is blessed with this revenue stabilization law. I think everyone's going to have the attitude that we get in. If we've got battles to fight, we may have to wait until the fall budget hearings before the 21 session and just try to get the appropriations done. Revenue stabilization, the way RSA works, is we have categories of spending of priority in category A. Maybe we have a category B. This fiscal year we had a category C. We've just had to cut off the funding for B and C because of the recent revenue forecast reduction and even part of A. So I think we'll go in, we'll do the budget. The governor has just this week reduced his forecast again. But as we go into the fiscal year, if the money's not there, the governor has the authority to revise the forecast and simply cut the spending back according to our revenue stabilization law.
There you go. So state financing 101 right there for you. State Senator Bruce Maloch, we certainly appreciate some of the insight, and we definitely appreciate the time. We'll do it again. We'll come up after the break. We talk with our good pal Chuck Todd on getting a national look at what the issue is here. You're watching Capitol View on Sunday morning.
Ask for extra. You might just get it. Play the new extra tickets from the Arkansas Scholarship Lottery. Multiply your prize from 2 to 200 times.
There are everyday actions to help prevent the spread of respiratory diseases. Wash your hands. Avoid close contact with people who are sick. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. Stay home when you are sick. Cover your cough or sneeze. Clean and disinfect frequently touched objects with household cleaning spray. For more information, visit cdc.gov/COVID-19. This message brought to you by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
Listen up. In 2016, a New Mexico House seat was decided by only 2 votes out of almost 14,000.
In 2010, a state house race in Vermont was determined by 1 vote.
In 2002, a Connecticut House seat was determined by just 1 vote out of more than 6,000.
In 1994, a Wyoming state house seat vote ended in a tie. The winner, chosen at random, went on to become Speaker of the State House.
Your voice matters. Use it.
Chevrolet cares, and we at Phil Wright Autoplex also care, and we're offering the largest discounts of the year. It's Truck Month, and during Truck Month, we're offering an unheard of 0% for 84 months and no payment for 120 days. So come check out the great selection of Silverados in stock and take advantage of up to $13,000 off or 0% for 84 months. It's never been easier to buy a vehicle than now. You can purchase your new vehicle without even leaving the comfort and convenience of your home. We at Phil Wright Autoplex care, and we are prepared to deliver your new vehicle safely to your driveway.
Room service.
Ask for extra. You might just get it. Play the new extra tickets from the Arkansas Scholarship Lottery. Multiply your prize from 2 to 200 times.
You're watching Capitol View, Sunday morning talk focused on the political scene in Arkansas.
Welcome back into Capitol View. Last week, Governor Hutchinson put limits on state park use to curb out-of-state visitors from hotspots and to limit large gatherings. One of those hotspots is Louisiana. President Trump announced FEMA will build 2 field hospitals in Louisiana as the number of coronavirus cases there skyrockets. Washington correspondent Jesse Tenura reports.
Senator Bill Cassidy is watching his home state of Louisiana turn into a hotspot for the coronavirus pandemic.
About 3 weeks ago, we had 1 case in Louisiana, and now we have probably 4,500 cases. with a few hundred people dead.
As cases rise rapidly, hospitals are hitting maximum capacity. But new temporary rules from the Trump administration will help free up beds.
To use the resources that they already have in their community.
Coronavirus Task Force member Seema Verma says overwhelmed hospitals will be able to transfer patients not suffering from the virus to facilities like outpatient surgery centers. Cassidy, a physician himself, says the centers also have a key resource his state and others desperately need.
Some of these outpatient hospitals will have ventilators or anesthesia machines which can function as a ventilator.
But members of Congress say these temporary federal rules also highlight another issue, a shortage of ICU nurses.
We can build more ICU beds, but staffing them is a challenge.
Fellow Louisiana Senator John Kennedy says more states will have to look at loosening licensing requirements and asking former ICU nurses to come out of retirement. Arkansas Congressman French Hill says states may also shorten training programs.
We've talked about the new medical graduates that are not yet licensed, pressing them into service here this spring.
Changes like these expected to boost capacity and save lives as the country waits for the virus to peak. In Washington, I'm Jessie Tenor.
Thank you, Jesse. As the coronavirus crisis continues to limit air travel and keep commuters off the roads, the demand for oil has tanked. Louisiana's John Kennedy, part of the group of Republican senators asking for the Trump administration for help. Kennedy argues this temporary suspension of royalty payments would save the independent offshore companies more than $1 billion, helping them keep tens of thousands of workers on payroll.
Eliminate the need for oil and gas producers to pay royalties to the federal government on federal land.
The senators want this to happen within the next 30 days, but some groups in Washington say the lawmakers are taking advantage of the healthcare workers, emergency responders, and other essential staff continue to go to work during the COVID-19 outbreak. But what about their kids who have to stay at home? Our Washington correspondent Basil John reports as lawmakers demand the administration make child options available.
Some of us can't stay home. Healthcare workers, first responders, grocery store workers, and delivery drivers, to name a few.
These Americans have families and they have children.
Lawmakers like Pennsylvania Senator Bob Casey want the Trump administration to expand options for child care for these essential workers.
There's no way that you'll be able to do that job well if you're worried that your children are not being cared for.
22 senators have signed a letter asking the Office of Child Care to take immediate steps to expand child care options for essential workers.
This pandemic, which makes everybody more nervous and anxious, not only about their own health, but about the health of their kids. When you compound it, it raises the need.
Virginia Senator Tim Kaine says the recent coronavirus relief package included $3.5 billion for a child care development block grant.
The very workers who we rely on the most are probably the group of people who have the most to be concerned about right now. If we can reduce that concern a little bit by providing resources for childcare, then we should do that.
Senators asked the department what options would be possible, such as using closed Head Start facilities to offer temporary child care. But they say a decision needs to be made soon.
We also have to think very creatively, not just with regard to the dollars appropriated, but also the policy.
The Office of Child Care had no immediate response. The senators want details from the office by April 6th. Reporting in Washington, I'm Basil John.
The Democratic National Convention being postponed due to coronavirus concerns. The party announced the convention will now take place in Milwaukee on the week of August 17th instead of July as originally planned. Presidential frontrunner Joe Biden has expressed skepticism in recent days that a traditional party convention was possible in July and told Jimmy Fallon Wednesday night that August was more tenable. And with the Olympics now postponed, an August convention wouldn't compete with attention or for attention with that event. The new dates put the Democratic convention just 1 week before the Republican convention, scheduled to be in Charlotte the week of August 24th. Bernie Sanders says he's taking a hard look at the future of his presidential campaign, acknowledging a narrow path to winning the Democratic nomination. Sanders spoke as he trails Joe Biden by over 300 delegates. And a respected poll just ahead of Wisconsin's primary Tuesday shows Biden has over a 30-point lead just in that state.
Give me a better sense of what you believe your narrow path to victory could be for the Democratic presidential nomination.
Well, it is a narrow path. On top of that poll, we are 300 delegates behind Biden, and many of the elections have been delayed. The Democratic convention has delayed. We're in a kind of crazy political period. And I will be honest with you, Ali, and tell you that among my supporters, there are different points of view as to how we should proceed, and we're listening to our supporters right now.
The 2020 presidential campaign, like everything else in our lives, has been radically altered by the coronavirus. The president and his remaining Democratic challengers can't hold rallies, so they're moving their campaigns online. Anna Wernicke from our D.C. Bureau reports on how the presidential candidates and lawmakers are reaching their voters virtually.
Even though presidential candidates are no longer shaking hands and kissing babies, the race for the White House hasn't stopped.
Welcome to our very first Latinos for Trump online town hall.
We're operating entirely digitally.
Trump campaign press secretary Kayleigh McEnany says the campaign is now reaching voters online.
Essentially doing virtual town halls, virtual ways to connect with our supporters.
The Trump campaign says its online campaign reached more than 1 million viewers this week.
It will be very, very frequent, multiple events per week, perhaps one a day.
And the remaining Democratic challengers, former Vice President Joe Biden and Senator Bernie Sanders, are also changing their approach.
I'm sitting in my basement. There's a television studio set up down here, and I'm being told by the people who run this thing for me and staff that millions of people, over 20, 30 million people now, have heard what I'm saying.
And it's not just presidential candidates adjusting to this new platform. Lawmakers across the country are finding new ways to reach voters.
This is wild times, but it's forcing all of us to figure out ways to connect with people.
Texas Republican Congressman Will Hurd isn't running for re-election, but he says everyone in office is trying new strategies.
I'm going to do, some Facebook Lives. I'll do some teletown halls. Continue to interact with folks on social media.
It really is, kind of new age campaigning.
McEnany says while you might not see anyone going door to door, those same volunteers are now making campaign calls from home. In Washington, I'm Anna Wernicke.
And when we come back, we talk to our good friend Chuck Todd. You might see a familiar face this week on Meet the Press. You're watching Capitol View on Sunday morning.
Celebrate with jewelry from J. Oliver's Jewelry Studio. We can now design your jewelry right before your eyes. Why buy the ordinary when J. Oliver's can create the extraordinary? Take something old and remake it new again. J. Oliver's, your full-service custom jewelry studio.
I'm Attorney General Leslie Rutledge, and you're watching the Rutledge Report. Many of us were blessed to grow up in a loving home. Not every child does. 1 out of every 5 kids in our state suffers abuse from family, friends, or neighbors. If something doesn't seem quite right, say something and save a child's life. Together, let's end child abuse. At the Attorney General's office, we will do the fighting for you. Call us at 800-482-8982 or visit arkansasag.gov.
Got debt, no money, call honey.
These bills are really worrying me. I know what you mean. I feel like I'm drowning in debt.
We are a bankruptcy firm with over 30 years of experience helping Arkansas families get back on their feet. We are dedicated to stopping foreclosures, repossessions, and bill collectors. Call today on your mobile. Star 33. Be debt-free. Call Star 33. The Honey Law Firm. From your cell, that's Star 33.
Sold it. Attention Gooseberry Lake home buyers and pilots. Absolute real estate and personal property auction. 90 Bonaire Road in Higdon, Arkansas. With a beautiful 4,000 square foot, 4-bedroom, 4.5 bathroom lakefront home. With an airplane hangar, neighborhood airstrip, and boat ramp. Also selling a Ranger trout boat, Bad Boy mower, UTV, and more. Download and bid online with the Wilson Auctioneers app or live on site Friday, April 17th at 11 a.m. And everything is selling regardless of price. Sold it.
Overstock and chill with Overstock Furniture and Mattress. Savings now up to 70% off. Overstock and chill with a living room set now from $4.99. Plus 2 free months of your favorite online streaming service. Up to 70% off entire selection of Magnolia Home by Joanna Gaines. Name brand mattresses from $2.99. Overstock and chill. Financing available for everyone, no matter your credit. Overstock and chill with Overstock Furniture and Mattress. Savings now up to 70% off.
Airlift Concrete Experts is your go-to company for trouble with any settling concrete. We use a structural polyurethane that is injected beneath the structure to raise it back to a level state. And every job we do has a warranty. Call Mike at Airlift Concrete Experts.
You're watching Capitol View, Sunday morning talk focused on the political scene in Arkansas.
And welcome back into Capitol View. Many states have recently made executive stay-at-home orders, but Arkansas still one of the 5 states and the only state in the South that has not. Now, on Thursday, Governor Asa Hutchinson addressed that, saying he believes the targeted response of the state has been more effective and provides better balance with safety and the economy. And, of course, the governor has closed some state parks, closed indoor dining, tattoo studios, hair salons, banned indoor gatherings of 10 or more, which are things covered mostly already in stay-at-home orders across the nation. But he also says other states, it's really not making people stay at home.
And so the strategy of a targeted response to this emergency virus situation in Arkansas is proven to be successful in bending the curve, lowering the apex of the curve, and reducing the number of cases and hospitalizations in Arkansas.
There's a certain amount of political pressure to do what everyone else is doing, but in no state is everyone staying at home.
Now, the governor also did mention that if he did issue a stay-at-home order, there could potentially be over 100,000 more jobs lost, and it would put a further strain on the unemployment issues already going on here in Arkansas. And Governor Hutchinson will be talking with Meet the Press moderator Chuck Todd right after this show. And kind of what are some of the points that we're hitting on here, Chuck?
Well, look, I think that's what it is, and I think I'm going to have 2 different governors on. I'll have Governor Hutchinson, obviously, and then Governor Inslee from Washington State. So both who are experiencing sort of 2 different versions of this virus, and both are at 2 different time periods, which is really more what I'm interested in sharing with viewers, right? You have Washington State's experience. They believe they're finally starting to bend the curve. You have other states where this is just starting to become an issue. So I think it's important for viewers to sort of get a taste of what's happening in different regions. And I think, I do think it's fair to point out what you did there, Jay, on these stay-at-home orders. No one has been alike. It is a reminder. We literally, I think there's 45 of them out there. But you're right, some of them are very similar to what Governor Hutchinson has done, and even though he would say, I'm not done a stay-at-home order, but it's pretty close. It's essentially what Florida's done. It's essentially what Georgia's done. So for the most part, everybody's operating under the same broad guidelines with specific differences based on, say, religious services and things like that.
Absolutely here. And I guess, too, let's just talk about this at the national level. Obviously, the first couple of phases of this whole virus have been addressed here. Is the legislature up there, are they looking to get into anything else? Are we going to further, I know talks have been sending out more checks. How are they going to go into helping small, mid-sized businesses, things like that?
Yeah. Well, look, I think you already, in fact, this has come up in the last few days. You finally have, early in the week, Speaker Pelosi and Mitch McConnell didn't look like they were on the same page about what a, quote, phase 4 bill would look like. Speaker Pelosi maybe moving down the road, looking at some larger infrastructure ideas. Mitch McConnell going, whoa, 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 let's hold off on that. Well, now both of them are talking about going, oh, wait a minute, maybe we need to send more checks. Maybe we just need to take what they did in phase 3 and essentially refill the coffers. I mean, if you think about what the direct checks are for, it's to help people in the month of April. Well, the federal government has essentially said, 45 days, they've asked us to shelter in some form of place. Well, that's more than a month's worth of bills at this point. So I do think there is a lot of momentum building for another bipartisan deal that would essentially get another direct payment out there, more money in the kitty for the small business folks to draw from as well. And I think that you'll start to see. My guess is in the next couple of weeks, I think just after Easter, you're going to see a little agitation for this.
And I guess quickly here, I know it's something we were talking about a lot going into this year, obviously being an election year, but how does basically everything being put on the back burner, put on pause, how is this going to affect everything going into November or heck, even into what is now August for the Democrat National Convention?
Look, it's one everything, right? One topic, it's consumed everything. This is going to be what our politics is defined by, and frankly, I think our politics is going to be defined by this for years. I mean, it's not just this year that's impacting specific events, and certainly the way we campaign, and we're certainly going to have it's going to be unlike any campaign we've seen in our lifetime. But as far as what policy proposal isn't going to basically have to have some form of a post-pandemic aspect to it, no matter what you're deciding to do, whether it's expanding healthcare, whether it's infrastructure. You know, it is all now going to be through the lens of this pandemic. I think the election is essentially going to be about who do you want managing the recovery, pure and simple. And both candidates, the president and likely Joe Biden, I think the voters are going to demand, okay, tell me how you're going to manage this recovery. And that's essentially what this entire, I think, debate is going to be about in November.
It's certainly going to be interesting to watch it unfold. Chuck Todd from Washington, D.C., boss. We certainly appreciate the time and the perspective, and make sure you tune in right after us here. You catch Asa Hutchinson on Meet the Press.
Stay healthy.
All right. And we're back to wrap it up after this. You're watching Capitol View on Sunday morning.
Let's go camping. Let's go luxury. Let's go Kiko's Country RV in Sherwood, Mayflower, and soon Cabot. Or shop us online at kikoscountryrv.com. Let's go.
Did you know minorities are 1.4 times more likely to be obese? This epidemic of obesity can be slowed with a simple lifestyle change by cooking with love and eating in as a family. Cooking at home is healthier, less expensive, promotes family togetherness, and helps prevent heart disease. So cook with love. Eat in tonight. Go to southern-ain't-fried.org for meal plans and healthier alternatives to preparing Southern-style foods and begin your transition to healthier living.
Let's go camping. Let's go luxury. Let's go Kiko's Country RV in Sherwood, Mayflower, and soon Cabot. Or shop us online at kikoscountryrv.com. Let's go.
Watching Capitol View, Sunday morning talk focused on the political scene in Arkansas.
And that is it for today's show. Make sure you download the Capitol View podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We're back with an all-new Capitol View next week. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Stay safe out there.